Admiral Kethrak stood in the command center of his massive warship. The ship was called Eternal Order, and it was bigger than most cities on smaller planets. Around him, dozens of officers worked at their stations. Each officer wore the same gray uniform with perfect creases. Everything on the ship was clean, organized, and followed the rules. Kethrak looked at the blue planet on his main screen. Earth, the third planet from a yellow star. His computer files told him everything about this world. The humans living there had just discovered faster-than-light travel. They were new to space. They would be easy to control. Officer Zenthal, Kethrak called to his communications expert. "Begin Protocol 847 Alpha." "Yes, Admiral," Zenthal replied. He touched his control panel with 4 long fingers. "Broadcasting standard surrender message to the planet Earth." Kethrak smiled. He had done this 847 times before. The Velthari Empire owned most of the galaxy because they were organized. They had rules for everything. When they found a new planet, they sent the same message. Every time, the planet surrendered within 3 days. It was simple and clean. The message was 47 pages long. It explained how the planet could join the Empire peacefully. All they had to do was follow the correct procedures, fill out the right forms, choose a governor from the approved list, hand over their weapons according to Regulation 23B. It was all very civilized. On Earth, in the city of Seoul, Captain Hyun-Woo Kim was drinking coffee when the message arrived. He worked at the Defense Communications Center. His job was to watch for signals from space. Most days, nothing happened. Today was different. "Captain Kim," called So-Young Park from across the room. She was young and smart. She handled all the important communications for Earth's military. "We're getting something strange from space." Hyun-Woo walked over to her station. "What kind of strange?" "It's a message. A really long message. And it's in perfect Korean. Also in English, Chinese, and about 50 other languages." So-Young's eyes were wide. "Sir, I think we just made contact with aliens." Hyun-Woo felt his heart beat faster. "Put it on the main screen." The message appeared on the big screen that covered one wall of the room. Other workers stopped what they were doing and came to look. Tae-Min Lee, their best strategic analyst, pushed his glasses up his nose and started reading. "Citizens of Earth," the message began, "you have been selected for integration into the Velthari Galactic Empire. This is a great honor. To ensure a smooth transition, you must complete the following requirements within 72 standard hours." Hyun-Woo kept reading. The message went on and on. It talked about surrender ceremonies. It listed rules for handing over all weapons. It demanded complete access to all of Earth's technology. It even included forms that needed to be filled out in triplicate. "This is a joke, right?" asked So-Young. Tae-Min shook his head. "The signal came from space, way out past Mars. And look at this part here." He pointed to a section of the message. "They want us to choose our planetary governor from this list of approved candidates. All the names are aliens." Hyun-Woo read the names. They were long and had too many consonants. None of them sounded like they cared about humans. "They want us to surrender," said So-Young. "Just like that. Because they said so?" "Look at this part," Tae-Min said, pointing to another section. "It says they've done this to 847 other worlds. Every single planet surrendered." Hyun-Woo read that section twice. The aliens were very proud of their success rate. They had conquered hundreds of worlds using the same method. Send a message. Wait for surrender. Take over the planet. It had worked every single time. "Captain," So-Young said quietly, "what do we do?" Hyun-woo looked around the room. All of his people were watching him. These were good people, smart people. They had worked hard to build Earth's space program. They had dreamed of meeting aliens someday, but not like this. "Read it again," Hyun-woo said. "The whole thing." So-young started from the beginning. As she read, more people gathered around. The message was full of big words and complex rules. It talked about integration protocols and administrative compliance and cultural assimilation procedures. When So-young finished reading, the room was quiet for a moment. Then someone started laughing. It was Tai-min. He was trying to hold it in, but he couldn't stop. They want us to fill out forms," he said between laughs. "To surrender our planet, we need to fill out forms." Soon other people were laughing too. The whole thing was ridiculous. These aliens had traveled across the galaxy to conquer Earth, and they wanted to do it with paperwork. "Captain," So-young said, wiping tears from her eyes, "what should our official response be?" Hyun-woo thought about it. The aliens expected a formal surrender document. They wanted Earth's leaders to sign papers and follow their rules. They had conquered 847 worlds this way. But humans were different. Humans had fought wars for thousands of years. They had never surrendered just because someone told them to. Even when they were outnumbered, outgunned, and had no chance of winning, humans kept fighting. "Send them a message," Hyun-woo said. "What should it say?" So-young asked. Hyun-woo looked at the alien message one more time. 47 pages of rules and regulations. Hundreds of requirements. Complex procedures for planetary surrender. "Just one word," Hyun-woo said. "No." So-young typed the response and sent it into space. "One word, broadcast to the galaxy. Earth's official answer to the Velthari Empire's demand for surrender." On his command ship, Admiral Kethrak stared at his communication screen. The response from Earth was the shortest message he had ever received from a planet. "Officer Zenthal," he said slowly. "What does this mean?" Zenthal checked his translation computer 3 times. "It means no, Admiral." No? Kethrak had conquered 847 worlds. Every single one had sent back the proper surrender documents. Long formal papers accepting Velthari rule. Just... "No." "Yes, sir. I mean, no, sir." They said no. Kethrak looked at his files again. In his long career, no planet had ever responded like this. The humans were supposed to be scared. They were supposed to realize they couldn't fight the Empire. They were supposed to follow the rules. "Perhaps they need more time to understand," said Officer Molthek from the tactical station. The message was quite comprehensive. "Run a scan of their planet," Kethrak ordered. "Maybe they don't have the technology to send longer messages." "Thach." Scan results appeared on his screen. Earth had plenty of communication technology. They had global networks that could send messages anywhere on their planet in seconds. They could definitely send a longer message if they wanted to. "Admiral," Zenthal said carefully, "should I send the message again? Perhaps there was a translation error." Kethrak shook his head. There was no error. The humans had understood the message perfectly. They had chosen to ignore 847 successful conquests and respond with a single word. For the first time in his career, Admiral Kethrak didn't know what to do next. Admiral Kethrak had never felt confused before. In all his years of conquest, every planet had followed the same pattern. Send the surrender message, receive the formal acceptance, begin integration procedures. It was clean and predictable. But Earth had said no. "Officer Molthek," Kethrak called to his tactical commander. Initiate Protocol 847 Beta. Molthek checked his manual. Demonstration of superior force, sir? Correct. Select an uninhabited area on the planet's surface. Deliver a controlled energy discharge to show our capabilities. Then we wait 48 hours for reconsideration. This was standard procedure. Sometimes young civilizations needed to see the Empire's power before they understood their situation. A small demonstration usually convinced them to surrender properly. Molthek studied Earth's surface. There is a large empty area called Australia, Admiral. Minimal population in the central region. Proceed. The Eternal Order charged its main weapons. The energy beam struck the Australian outback with perfect precision. It created a crater, exactly 50 meters wide and 10 meters deep. The blast was designed to show power without causing real damage. Very civilized. On Earth, General Dong-Hyun Choi was in a meeting at the Pentagon when the ground shook. Alarms started ringing throughout the building. Within minutes, reports came in from Australia. "General," said his aide, Colonel Hae-Jin Nam, "the aliens just attacked the outback. No casualties, but they left a big hole in the ground." Dong-Hyun looked at the satellite images. The crater was perfectly round. The energy readings were enormous. The aliens were showing Earth what they could do. "Get me Commander Yoon." Dong-Hyun ordered. Jin-Ho Yoon ran Earth's combined defense systems. All the military satellites, orbital platforms, and missile systems reported to him. He was a quiet man who thought carefully before speaking. "Jin-Ho," Dong-Hyun said when the call connected, "they just shot our planet." "I saw the reports," Jin-Ho replied. "It was a warning shot. They could have hit anything they wanted. So, what do? We show them what humans do when someone shoots at us." 3 hours after the alien demonstration, something unexpected happened. Instead of panicking, humans did what humans always do in strange situations. They got curious. The first people to reach the crater were local ranchers. They brought cameras and took pictures. The hole was still glowing with alien energy, so they set up barbecue grills nearby and invited their friends over. Within 6 hours, the crater had become a tourist attraction. People drove hundreds of miles to see where aliens had shot Earth. They brought lawn chairs and coolers full of beer. Someone started selling T-shirts that said, "I survived the alien warning shot." News crews arrived from around the world. Instead of fear, the reporters found a party. Humans were taking selfies with the alien crater. Children were throwing rocks into the glowing hole to watch them bounce. The images went viral on social media within hours. Alien crater became the top trending topic worldwide. People shared memes about the aliens' poor aim and jokes about using the crater as a swimming pool. Admiral Kethrak watched these broadcasts in complete confusion. "Officer Zenthal," he said slowly, "are the humans celebrating?" "It appears so, Admiral. They seem to find our demonstration of power entertaining." Kethrak had never seen anything like it. When he destroyed part of a planet, the inhabitants usually begged for mercy. They didn't throw parties. On Earth, General Dong-Hyun was coordinating with leaders around the world. The United Nations had called an emergency session. Every country agreed on the response. "Hae-Jin," Dong-Hyun said to Colonel Nam, "send a message to our alien friends." "What should it say, sir?" "Tell them nice. Fireworks. Our turn." When Admiral Kethrak received this message, he almost fell out of his command chair. The humans weren't scared. They weren't begging for mercy. They were making jokes, and then Earth's surface erupted with activity. Every major city on the planet launched something into space at the same time. Kinetic railguns fired from hidden bunkers. Nuclear-powered missiles shot up from underground silos. Experimental plasma weapons that humans had been building in secret came online. Jin Ho Yoon had spent years preparing for this moment, not specifically for aliens, but for any threat from space. Earth's defense network was bigger than the aliens realized, much bigger. The first wave of human weapons struck the Velthari fleet's shields. The energy barriers held, but the aliens were shocked. The humans were shooting back during the negotiation phase. This wasn't in any protocol. "Admiral!" Molthek shouted from his station. "They're firing at us." "I can see that," Kethrak replied. "How many weapons?" "Hundreds, sir. From all over the planet. They have orbital railguns, missile platforms, and something that looks like weaponized industrial equipment." More human weapons kept firing. The attacks weren't random. They were coordinated, planned. The humans had been preparing for space combat long before they met the Empire. "This is impossible," Kethrak muttered. "Protocol 847 Beta is supposed to demonstrate our superiority. They should be requesting negotiations." "Perhaps." "They don't understand the protocol, sir," suggested Officer Zenthal. On Earth, Hyejin Nam was working with leaders from every nation. The aliens wanted to play by rules. Humans would show them what happened when you brought rules to a fight. "The Chinese are reporting successful hits on their shields," she told General Dong Hyun. "The Russians say their plasma cannons are functioning normally. The Europeans have their orbital platforms fully operational." "And our response?" Dong Hyun asked. "Every nation is participating, sir. We're not just defending Earth. We're showing these aliens that humans don't surrender." The alien fleet's shields were holding, but barely. The humans were using weapons the Empire had never seen before. Industrial mining lasers converted to military use. Cargo rail systems turned into mass drivers. Even their communication satellites had been weaponized. Admiral Kethrak realized he was facing something his training had never prepared him for. The humans weren't following any protocol. They had responded to his warning shot with immediate military action. "Sir," Molthek said, his voice shaking, "what are our orders?" Kethrak checked his command manual. According to Protocol 847 Gamma, if the demonstration of force failed to achieve compliance, he should escalate to limited engagement rules. But the humans weren't engaging in limited anything. They were throwing everything they had at his fleet. They were fighting like they had nothing to lose. "All ships," Kethrak announced, "prepare for combat operations, but follow engagement protocols. Measured responses only. We are civilized beings." The Velthari fleet began to return fire, but carefully. They targeted military installations according to regulation. They avoided civilian areas as required by the Convention of Civilized Warfare. They followed proper procedures for space combat. The humans ignored every rule of civilized warfare and kept shooting. "Admiral," reported Officer Velnash from the scanning station, "the humans are not following standard combat protocols. They're targeting our supply ships. They're using civilian vessels as weapons platforms. They're broadcasting our tactical communications on their entertainment networks." Kethrak felt something he had never experienced before. For the first time in 847 conquests, he wasn't sure he was going to win. The humans were fighting like animals, like warriors. Like they would rather die than surrender, and they were laughing while they did it. The battle for Earth was unlike anything in galactic history. The Velthari Empire fought with precision and order. Every attack followed proper military protocols. Every response was measured and appropriate. They had rules for everything. The humans had no rules at all. Captain Min-ho Park commanded a small fleet of cargo ships near Jupiter. His vessels weren't military. They were converted mining freighters and transport ships. But Min-ho had spent his whole life in space, and he understood something the aliens didn't. "Listen up," he told his crew over the radio. "These aliens fight like they're taking a test. Everything has to be perfect. Everything has to follow their rules." His ships were loaded with mining explosives. Normally, these charges were used to break apart asteroids. Today, Min-ho had a different plan. "We're going to ram their supply line," he announced. His crew thought he was crazy. The alien ships were huge and heavily shielded. A cargo freighter couldn't possibly damage them, but Min-ho wasn't trying to destroy their warships. He was targeting something the aliens needed but didn't protect very well: their logistics vessels. The Velthari fleet followed standard military doctrine. Warships in front, support ships in the back. The supply vessels carried fuel, spare parts, and food. They weren't heavily armed because enemy forces weren't supposed to target non-combat ships. That was against the rules. Min-ho's freighter accelerated toward the alien supply line. The Velthari officers watched in confusion as the human ship approached. It wasn't firing weapons. It wasn't broadcasting surrender signals. It was just flying straight at them. "Warning, human vessel," came the alien transmission. "You are approaching restricted space. Alter your course immediately." Min-ho's response was broadcast on every human communication channel. "Ram speed, boys!" His ship struck the alien logistics vessel and exploded. The mining charges detonated inside the supply ship, causing secondary explosions that spread to 3 other vessels. In one attack, Min-ho had crippled the aliens' ability to refuel and resupply their fleet. The Velthari had never seen a ramming attack during limited engagement procedures. It wasn't in their combat manual. Meanwhile, high above Earth, engineer Eun-jung Song was working frantically in the International Space Station. She had been in space for 3 months studying zero-gravity manufacturing. Now she was fighting for her planet's survival. "Ground control," she called to Mission Command. "I need authorization to modify the communication satellites." "What kind of modifications?" came the reply. "The kind that turns them into weapons." Eun-jung was a brilliant engineer. She understood that the aliens' biggest advantage was their coordination. Their fleet moved like a single organism because they shared information constantly. She began rerouting power from civilian satellites throughout Earth's orbital network. New satellites, weather monitoring stations, GPS systems, everything that could transmit signals. She linked them all together into one massive jamming array. "Initiating communication blackout," she announced. Suddenly, the alien fleet couldn't talk to each other. Their perfect coordination collapsed. Ships stopped receiving orders. Formation patterns broke apart. The Velthari had built their entire military strategy around constant communication, and the humans had just cut their phone lines. On Earth's surface, Wu Jin-kong was running a very different kind of war. He worked for a tech company in Seoul, but his real passion was hacking. He led a group of programmers, gamers, and cybersecurity experts who met online to solve impossible computer problems. Today, their problem was an alien empire. "The good news," Wu Jin told his team, "is that we've intercepted their data transmissions. The bad news is that their computer systems are about 1,000 years more advanced than ours." Yoona Kim, one of his best hackers, was studying the alien code. "Their security is incredible," she said. "I can't break into their military systems at all." "Then don't," said Se-hun-oh. He was a professional gamer who understood strategy better than most generals. "If you can't attack their strengths, attack Their weaknesses? What weaknesses? Yuna asked. Sehun pulled up the alien communications they had been monitoring. Look at these messages. Half of them aren't about fighting. They're about paperwork. He was right. The Velthari military sent constant reports to their government. Fuel consumption records, personnel status updates, equipment maintenance schedules, supply requisitions. Even in the middle of battle, they were filing forms. Their entire civilization runs on bureaucracy, Wu Jin realized. They have to document everything. So we attack their filing system, Yuna said with a grin. The human. Hackers launched the most unusual cyber attack in history. They didn't target weapons systems or military databases. Instead, they hacked the Velthari Empire's administrative networks. Tax collection systems crashed. Personnel records got scrambled. Supply requisitions were redirected to random departments. Every form in the Empire's vast bureaucracy was suddenly filed in the wrong place. Admiral Kethrak first noticed the problem when he tried to request additional ammunition for his fleet. The computer system asked him to fill out Form 2847 Delta, but Form 2847 Delta didn't exist anymore. It had been replaced by Form 3951 Zeta, which required approval from a department that had been deleted from the database. Officer Zenthal, Kethrak said, his voice strained. Why can't I order more ammunition? The system says you need authorization from the Bureau of Conquered Planet Management, sir. But that bureau was reassigned to the Department of Cultural Integration, which is now part of the Ministry of Galactic Harmony. And where is the Ministry of Galactic Harmony? According to this, it doesn't exist. It was dissolved last week and replaced with the Council of Universal Understanding. Fine. Contact the Council of Universal Understanding. I can't, sir. The computer says I don't have clearance to contact them without Form 8456 Alpha. Then, get me Form 8456 Alpha. I need authorization from the Bureau of Conquered Planet Management to access that form, sir. Kethrak stared at his communication officer. The humans had created a perfect bureaucratic loop. Every action required a form that needed approval from a department that didn't exist anymore. Across the Velthari fleet, the same problem was spreading. Ships couldn't change course without movement permits that had to be approved by offices that had been renamed or deleted. Weapons couldn't fire without authorization codes that were stored in databases that no longer recognized the ship's identification numbers. The Empire's greatest strength had become its greatest weakness. Their love of proper procedures was paralyzing them. On Earth, the human resistance was growing stronger by the hour. Factory workers had converted assembly lines to build weapons. Farmers were using crop-dusting planes to attack alien landing parties. Even school children were helping by using social media to coordinate intelligence gathering. The aliens had expected to fight a government. Instead, they were fighting an entire species. Status report, Admiral Kethrak demanded. Sir, Officer, Molthek said carefully. We control no territory on the planet's surface. Our supply lines are disrupted. Our communication network is compromised. And according to regulations, I need approval from 3 different departments before I can fire. Our main weapons. How long will that take? The approval process normally takes 6 to 8 weeks, sir. Kethrak looked at the blue planet on his screen. The humans were still broadcasting messages to his fleet, but they weren't surrender offers or peace negotiations. They were jokes, memes, videos of humans making fun of alien bureaucracy. 1. Video showed a human filling out paperwork while being chased by a monster. The caption read, Velthari military responding to emergency situations. Another video was just a human saying no for 10 minutes straight. For the first time in his career, Admiral Kethrock realized he might lose a war. Not because the enemy was stronger, but because they refused to fight properly. The humans were improvising. They were unpredictable. They were chaos in organized form, and chaos, Kethrock was learning, could defeat even the most perfect system. Admiral Sang-Wook Lee had fought in 3 wars before the aliens arrived. He knew how humans behaved when their backs were against the wall. They didn't surrender. They got creative. The enemy has superior technology, he told the Emergency War Council. They have bigger ships, better weapons, and more experience. But they have one fatal weakness: strategic operations. Chief Ji-Un Cho leaned forward. What weakness? They think war is a science. For humans, war is an art. The council was meeting in an underground bunker beneath Seoul. Every major military leader on Earth was there, either in person or by video link. They had been fighting the aliens for 3 days, and the situation was getting desperate. "What do you recommend?" asked Special Forces Commander Kyung-Soo Jang. Sang-Wook pointed to the tactical display. "We stop trying to fight their kind of war. We start fighting our kind of war. The plan that emerged from that meeting was the most insane military strategy in human history. Instead of defending Earth, they would attack the alien fleet directly. Not with weapons, but with people." "You want to board their ships?" Ji-Un asked. "With humans?" "With humans carrying computers," Sang-Wook corrected. "We've learned that their entire system depends on proper authorization codes. So we're going to give them authorization codes." The first wave of the assault began at dawn. Human cargo ships approached the alien fleet, broadcasting diplomatic requests. According to galactic law, warships had to allow diplomatic vessels to dock during peace negotiations. The aliens were confused, but their regulations were clear. They had to follow proper diplomatic protocol. Kyung-Soo led the first boarding party. His soldiers weren't carrying weapons. They were carrying laptops, tablets, and portable computers loaded with the virus programs that Wu Jin's hackers had created. "Remember," Kyung-Soo told his team as they docked with the alien ship, "we're diplomats. We're here for humanitarian aid discussions." The Velthari officers who met them were nervous but polite. They escorted the humans to a conference room and began formal diplomatic procedures. While the aliens were busy checking diplomatic credentials and filling out visitor forms, Kyung-Soo's soldiers were plugging their computers into every data port they could find. "We're here to discuss emergency medical supplies for our wounded," Kyung-Soo explained to the alien captain. "Of course," the captain replied. "But first, we must complete Form 9847 Medical Humanitarian Request Delta." "Absolutely," Kyung-Soo agreed. "We brought our own forms." The virus programs spread through the alien ship's computer network like wildfire. Within minutes, every system on the ship was asking for authorization codes that didn't exist. The ship's weapons required approval from departments that had been deleted. The engines needed permits that could only be issued by offices that were no longer connected to the network. By the time the aliens realized what was happening, their ship was completely paralyzed. "Captain," one of the alien officers reported, "I can't access any ship functions. The computer is asking for authorization from the Department of Human Relations." "We don't have a Department of Human Relations," the captain replied. "I know, sir. That's the problem." Meanwhile, on Earth's surface, civilian engineer Da-Un Lim was leading a group of factory workers in the most ambitious construction project in human history. They were turning the planet itself into a weapon. "We can't match their technology," Da-Un told her team, "but we can use our infrastructure." Every communication satellite in Earth's orbit was being converted into a kinetic weapon. Commercial, Shipping routes were being turned into orbital minefields. Social media networks had become military coordination systems. The aliens expect us to have a military command structure, Da-Un explained. They expect orders to come from the top down. Instead, we're fighting like a swarm. Every human on Earth was part of the resistance now. Farmers were using their tractors to move weapons. Delivery drivers were carrying intelligence reports. Even retired grandparents were monitoring alien communications and reporting suspicious activity. The Velthari couldn't understand how humans were coordinating their attacks. There was no central command, no main headquarters to target. Every human seemed to know what every other human was doing. Intelligence Officer Jae Sung Park had discovered the secret of Velthari weakness by accident. He was monitoring their communications when he noticed something strange. "They can't make quick decisions," he reported to Ji-un. "Every tactical choice has to be approved by multiple committees." "How long does approval take?" Ji-un asked. "For minor changes? About 6 hours. For major tactical decisions? 2 to 3 days." Ji-un smiled. "Then we change our tactics every 5 hours." The new human strategy was chaos itself. They would attack from one direction, then completely change their approach before the aliens could respond. When the Velthari adapted to human missile attacks, the humans switched to ramming maneuvers. When the aliens prepared for ramming attacks, the humans went back to long-range bombardment. Admiral Kethrak was losing his mind trying to keep up. Every time his staff developed a counter-strategy, the humans were doing something completely different. "Sir," Officer Molthek reported, "the humans are now using their garbage collection ships as weapons platforms." "Garbage ships?" "They're launching refuse at our fleet, sir. But the refuse contains explosive devices hidden inside food containers." "What kind of military uses garbage as ammunition?" "The humankind, apparently. The situation got worse when Kethrak tried to order a full-scale assault on Earth's cities. The authorization request went to the Military Action Committee, which forwarded it to the Planetary Bombardment Department, which sent it to the Bureau of Civilian Safety, which passed it to the Ethics Review Board. Each department had questions, forms to fill out. Environmental impact studies to complete. The Ethics Review Board wanted a full report on potential cultural damage. The Civilian Safety Bureau required evacuation procedures for non-combatants. The Planetary Bombardment Department needed detailed maps of all targets. By the time all the paperwork was complete, the human counterattack was already underway. Every armed ship, station, and modified civilian craft in the solar system was converging on the Velthari fleet. It wasn't a coordinated military assault. It was a mob of angry humans with improvised weapons. "Admiral," Zenthal called from his station, "we're receiving 17,000 communication requests from approaching human vessels." "What do they want?" "They're all requesting permission to surrender, sir." Kethrak was confused. "They want to surrender?" "No, sir. They want permission to make us surrender." The final human assault was led by a converted cruise ship that had been turned into a flying weapons platform. The ship's captain was broadcasting on all frequencies. "Attention, alien fleet. This is Captain Bong-Soo Han of the Earth vessel Vacation. Forever. You have 10 seconds to surrender before we ram you with our buffet deck." "They're going to ram us with their food service?" Officer Molthek asked in disbelief. "Sir," Zenthal reported, "the cruise ship is carrying approximately 3,000 human passengers. They're all armed, and they're all singing." The humans were singing battle songs as they flew toward the alien fleet. Old war chants, rock music, and children's songs all mixed together in a chaotic chorus that could be heard across space. Admiral Kethrak watched thousands of human ships approaching his fleet. None of them were military vessels. He saw cargo, ships, passenger liners, private yachts, and industrial mining platforms. All of them had been converted into weapons. All of them were crewed by humans who seemed excited about the idea of fighting a vastly superior alien fleet. "Sir," Officer Velnash said quietly, "what are your orders?" Kethrak looked at his tactical display. His fleet was surrounded by angry humans. His computer systems were corrupted by human viruses. His bureaucracy was paralyzed by human hackers. His supply lines were disrupted by human raiders, and the humans were still singing. For the first time in 847 conquests, Admiral Kethrak realized he was going to lose, not because the humans were stronger, but because they were impossible to predict, impossible to control, and impossible to stop. "Officer Zenthal," he said slowly, "send a message to the human leadership." "What should the message say, sir?" Kethrak closed his eyes. "Request immediate negotiations. Emergency priority." The battle for Earth was over, but the galaxy would never be the same. The meeting took place on a neutral space station that had been built in just 48 hours. Humans were good at building things quickly when they needed to. Commander Young-Sik Nam had overseen the construction using parts from both human and alien ships. President Dong-Woo Kim sat across from Admiral Kethrak in a simple metal room. The human delegation included General Hyo Jung-song and Dr. Seok Jin-ju. The alien admiral had brought only his communication officer and a translator. "I have never done this before," Admiral Kethrak admitted. "In 847 conquests, I have never had to negotiate with a planet that refused to surrender." "Well," President Dong-Woo said with a slight smile, "humans don't surrender much. It's not really our thing." Kethrak looked tired. His perfect uniform was wrinkled, and his eyes were red from lack of sleep. The battle for Earth had lasted only 1 week, but it had been the longest week of his military career. "I need to understand something," Kethrak said. "Why did you fight us? We offered you membership in the galaxy's greatest empire. We offered peace, prosperity, and protection." General Yo Jung leaned forward. "You offered us slavery with better paperwork. We offered you civilization," Kethrak protested. "No," Dr. Seok Jin said quietly. "You offered us your civilization. Humans already have their own." Kethrak was quiet for a moment. He had studied hundreds of species during his career. Most of them were grateful to join the Empire. They appreciated the order, the stability, the rules that made galactic society function. "Your species is dangerous," Kethrak said finally. "You fight without honor. You ignore established protocols. You turn civilian equipment into weapons. You use chaos as a strategy." "Yes," President Dong-Woo agreed. "We do all of those things. How can the galaxy maintain order with creatures like you in it?" President Dong-Woo was quiet for a long moment. Then he asked a question that would change galactic history. "Admiral, how many rebellions has your empire faced in the last 100 years?" Kethrak thought about it. 17 major rebellions, 43 minor uprisings, several hundred instances of civil disobedience. "And how did you handle them?" "Standard procedures, economic sanctions first, then military intervention, if necessary. Full bureaucratic restructuring of the rebellious system. It usually takes 5 to 10 years to restore order." "Expensive," General Hyo Jung observed. "Very expensive," Kethrak admitted. "Rebellions are the Empire's greatest ongoing cost." "President," Dong-Woo smiled, "what if we offered you a better solution?" "What kind of solution?" Instead of fighting us, hire us." The room was quiet for several minutes. Kethrak's translator worked frantically to make sure the Admiral understood the human proposal correctly. "You want us to hire humans as soldiers?" Kethrak asked. "Not exactly," Dr. Seok-jin said. "We want you to hire us as problem solvers. You keep running your empire the way you always have. Peaceful planets continue to enjoy all the benefits of Velthari civilization. But when someone causes trouble, you send humans," General Hyo-jung finished. Kethrak stared at the human delegation. "You want to become the Empire's military contractors?" "We want to become the Empire's diplomatic corps," President Dongwu corrected, "for special situations." "What kind of special situations?" "The kind where traditional diplomacy isn't working." Kethrak thought about the 17 major rebellions his empire was currently facing. Each one was costing billions of credits and taking years to resolve. The bureaucratic process was slow, expensive, and often ineffective. "How quickly could humans resolve a rebellion?" he asked. "How quickly do you need it resolved?" General Hyo-jung replied. "Our current situation on Kepler 442b has been ongoing for 3 years. The rebels refuse to fill out proper surrender documentation. They keep attacking our administrative centers." Dr. Seok-jin pulled up information about Kepler 442b on his tablet. "Rebellious population, attacking government buildings, refusing to follow proper procedures," he read. "Sounds like they need to meet some humans." "How long would it take you to resolve this situation?" Kethrak asked. "Give us 72 hours, President Dongwu said. 72 hours? Our military advisors estimate it will take another 2 years to pacify that system." "Your military advisors follow rules," General Hyo-jung said. "Humans make new rules." Admiral Kethrak made the fastest decision of his career. Fighting humans was impossible. They didn't follow any logical pattern. They were unpredictable, dangerous, and completely insane. But hiring humans? That might be the most intelligent thing the Empire had ever done. "I accept your proposal," Kethrak said. "The Velthari Empire will hire humanity as our special diplomatic corps." The agreement was signed that day. Earth would remain independent, but would work with the Empire to resolve difficult situations. Humans would handle any species that refused to cooperate with standard Imperial procedures. 6 months later, Ambassador Insu Choi established humanity's first embassy in the galactic capital. He was a former Special Forces operator who had learned to speak 17 alien languages in 6 weeks. The embassy was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of formal meeting rooms and bureaucratic offices, it looked like a military command center crossed with a sports bar. Human diplomats wore casual clothes instead of formal uniforms. They served alcohol during negotiations and told jokes while discussing serious matters. But it worked. The first test case came when the Zephyrian Republic declared independence from the Empire. The Zephyrians were a proud warrior species who had been planning their rebellion for 50 years. They had studied every imperial regulation and found legal loopholes that would make their independence technically valid under galactic law. The Empire's legal department estimated it would take 12 years and cost trillions of credits to resolve the situation through proper channels. Earth's diplomatic corps sent a single ship. Captain Junho Park arrived at the Zephyrian homeworld with a crew of 50 humans and a message for the rebel leadership. "We understand you want independence. Let's talk about it." The Zephyrian war chief was confused. "Are you here to negotiate our surrender?" "No," Captain Park replied. "We're here to negotiate your independence. But we're rebels. You represent the Empire. We represent a solution. You want independence? Fine. But you'll need to follow some new procedures. The new procedures were simple. The Zephyrians could have their independence, but they had to sign a mutual defense treaty with Earth. Any other species that wanted to rebel against the Empire would have to fight humans first. The Zephyrian war chief looked at the human proposal. You're offering us independence in exchange for helping you prevent other rebellions? We're offering you independence in exchange for helping us resolve other rebellions, Captain Park corrected. There's a difference. The Zephyrians accepted immediately. They had heard about humanity's war with the Empire. Fighting alongside humans was much more appealing than fighting against them. Within a year, the galaxy had adapted to its new reality. The Velthari Empire continued to manage interstellar civilization through proper bureaucratic channels. Peaceful. Species enjoyed the benefits of imperial order and protection. But when problems arose, the Empire had a new solution. Species that refused to follow proper procedures received a simple message. Your concerns have been noted. Please prepare for arrival of the Human Diplomatic Corps. Estimated time until resolution, 72 hours. Recommended action, immediate compliance with all previous imperial regulations. Most species chose immediate compliance. Those that didn't learn why humans had become the galaxy's most effective diplomats, not through negotiation or compromise, but through the simple demonstration that some problems could only be solved with controlled chaos. The galaxy learned that there were two types of difficulties: those that could be resolved with proper paperwork, and those that required humans. Most civilizations quickly decided they preferred paperwork. Admiral Kethrak, now promoted to Fleet Admiral, kept a framed copy of Earth's first message to the Empire on his office wall. One word: no. It reminded him daily that sometimes the most powerful response to overwhelming force wasn't surrender or negotiation. Sometimes it was just human stubbornness, and in a galaxy built on order and predictability, stubbornness had become the most valuable commodity of all.